Hi, I'm Phil Harbottle, and this is my seventh video discussing British science fiction paperbacks of the 1950s. Now, as 1952 started, Curtis Warren, the Mushroom Publishing Company, had lost David Griffiths, their mainstay author. So there was a question mark over whether they could continue the science fiction series. Predictably, Curtis turned again to their Western writers, which resulted in more god-awful books at the beginning of 1952. Brian Holloway was one of their hack writers behind the roster of Curtis house names. Here we see his first four titles: Transmercurian, Titan's Moon, Red Swarm, and Destination Alpha. All of them were perfectly dreadful. However, Curtis did have one good Western writer, John Jennison, who apparently did have some familiarity with science fiction. His books were well written, and they were coherent and interesting science fiction plots. They were all quite readable. They weren't up to the standard of Fern or Tubb, but they were perfectly acceptable for Curtis. There's Pararobot, Zero Field, Space Flight, and Station 7. But the most remarkable transformation was with author Denis Hughes. Someone at Curtis conceived a new slant. They began to label some of their work with a fantasy logo, differentiating them from the science fiction series. Denis Hughes was again assigned to write around these covers, but now he was given much more time, up to 3 or 4 weeks. And he was given the added freedom of veering from straight science fiction into sheer fantasy, utterly surreal takes on supernatural themes, including Eastern mythology, Chinese, Greek, Norse legends, or mythology. The first of these novels began as a conventional science fiction story, but in the second half it veered into bizarre fantasy. There were no other books like them on the stands. The new series began with Catalyst, Ominous Folly, all under this fantasy series, Death Dimension, and Fatal Law. And once again, Hughes had to make a silk purse out of Theobald's pig's ear covers, but he managed it. But then things became even better when Curtis secured the services of a brand new cover artist called Gordon C. Davies. And here we see the first two of his iconic covers, Blue Peril and Biology A. And these inspired Hughes to new heights. His books became even better than the other series, and there would be dozens of them following, and they were very successful, and it would keep Curtis Warren afloat for the next couple of years. But we'll take a break from Hughes and Curtis Warren books for the moment, but I would like to take the opportunity to mention that I have published a complete bibliography of all of Hughes' science fiction titles. And this appeared in the American magazine, Paperback Parade, number 92. This American magazine is published by Gary Levisi. I found his Griffin Books publications, and it should be available online or from Gary's own website. You can see at the bottom. Now, for this magazine, I wrote the first biography of Denis Hughes with the assistance of his family, who kindly provided a personal memoir written by Denis himself for his family shortly before he died in 2008. And I then went on to, this is his first book cover, which we saw in an earlier video. And there's Denis in his writing prime. And there he is towards the end of his life. So I went on to do a complete bibliography of everything Hughes wrote in the science fiction field, all the pen names revealed, and all the covers shown. There's some of the covers which you've just seen. complete coverage of all of the books, later books, which we'll discuss in a later video. And then I did a critique of the best 5 books, which were The Queen People, 24 Hours, Humanoid Puppets, which you saw on the cover, Biomuton, the splendid Gordon Davies cover, and The Land of Isa. Now, after this magazine was published, I was able to send copies around to various UK publishers and interest them in reprinting all of Hughes's science fiction, the best of it. But that was mostly in ebook editions. But there was one paperback edition of 2 of his best novels. You see it here. And this edition reprinted 2 of Hughes' best novels, Death Dimension, oh sorry, my mistake, Blue Peril. And here we can see the reprinted Death Dimension and Blue Peril, reprinted by Endeavour Press, which is now Lume Books, L-U-M-E. And here we see the chapter headings on the books. And this was a splendid edition, nicely printed on good quality paper, no staples. And if you wanted to find the original editions and buy copies of those, assuming you could find them, because they're extremely rare, that cost at least £50. Whereas this new Lume Books edition, which is available online, is only £7. So £50 or £7. It's a no-brainer.